Hi, welcome to the Rittner Floral School in Boston, Mass. I'm Dr. Steve Rittner, and it's a pleasure to welcome you into one of our classrooms today. The time of year, spring. The holiday, Passover. Passover is a very, very neat holiday. It's the Jewish holiday that celebrates freedom. Although it celebrates it for one particular ethnic group, certainly the themes of freedom are universal. At this time, families get together with friends. It's almost like what we call a Jewish Thanksgiving. It's an amazing holiday. Now, when family are getting together and when people are getting together, obviously, flowers can be used. And that's the theme of this particular video, flowers for Passover. Now, we can do so many different things as far as Passover flowers are concerned. Flowers can be used, for example, in an entry area of a home to make it look nicer. They can be used on a mantle of a home. They can be used on the coffee table in the living room. We could have centerpieces on the dining room table where folks are eating. In other words, you can use all kinds of things. And this is a typical design in the spring. It's a beautiful arrangement. It incorporates things like stock, iris, roses, some mini carnations, some carnations. We have some beautiful pink rice flower here. It's an amazing flower. We've got some daisy palms in here, a mixture of things. It's a beautiful medley. And certainly things like this can work very, very nicely for Passover. And we can make them in water, extended up like this. We could do this low and long and long and low, that kind of thing. We can play with all kinds of different variants on that. But let's take this holiday and take it a little bit beyond the average design, because what makes this particular design different than any other design? Essentially, it is very much similar to any design that would grace your home at any time of year. So let's play with this a little bit and see how we can come up with some very specific ideas for Passover. Now, certainly we can play with the theme on color. Here is, for example, a very, very pretty arrangement. And as you look at this arrangement, it incorporates a little bit more modern in style. Let's take a quick look at it. We have in this design a very contemporary kind of container. This is a geometric container. But what makes it Passover? What makes it appropriate for a Jewish holiday? Well, we're playing with the theme of color here. In this particular case, we're playing with white and blue, or blue-violet, depending upon how you happen to see these. The concept of white and blue fits very, very nicely into any Jewish theme. It could be used for Hanukkah, it could be used for Passover, because white and blue are the traditional colors of the traditional Jewish talit or prayer shawl. So in this particular case, we've got 3 white roses placed here, some stock over here, and a dramatic shooting out over on this side of some of our blue status. It happens to be shooting out over here, and we've clustered some of it over here. This design is a very, very different kind of feeling than the last one, because it feels a little bit more high style, a little bit more contemporary. But what makes it a little bit more appropriate for this particular holiday is the fact that it incorporates the white and the blue. And certainly we can do that. But that would work well for just about any holiday. I could present this to you, for example, for a Hanukkah design as well, because it would work very well at that time of the year too. Again, what makes Passover designs different than any other designs? How can we differentiate? Well, my viewer, we're going to show you a very, very neat trick in this particular video. It's neat, it's quick, and easy to do, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Matzah. Matzah. This stuff is great. Matzah is typically used during the Passover service. It's used during the Seder. And it's very, very neat stuff. It's available pretty much at all times, but it's very, very popular for Passover. It's used as part of the Seder. And the neat thing about it is it breaks, we can shape it, we can do all kinds of things with it. Now, if you've got this kind of material, you can use it because it has color, it has texture. Why not use it not only to eat, but also in some of our Passover designs? In this way, we're not only coming up with designs for Passover, but they definitely say Passover. In other words, they're less universal like the first design that we made. They're less Jewish themed that can work for anything like this one, but rather, these kinds of designs are very, very specific for Passover. Here is a simple example. Look at this. Quick, easy, and fun. A little bundling of our flowers. We have a bundling of flowers incorporating a variety of things. We've got some iris, we've got some roses worked in here, some beautiful stalk, carnations, mini carnations, and it's put into glassware, and it is basically covered through the bottom with the use of our matzah. Now this definitely says Passover. Get the idea? Bring out the matzah, play with it, do some interesting things with it. Here's another example of some of the things we can do for this holiday that definitely say Passover, and yet do it in a very, very specific way. Here, in this particular container, we happen to have a glass cylinder. We've got some ribbon that simulates aspidistra leaf on the bottom. And then the top, well, we've got our white roses. We've got our blue iris. So we're getting in the concept of the white and blue that are definitely appropriate as far as Jewish themes are concerned and as far as Jewish holidays are concerned. But what makes this design unique, what makes this design special for Passover, is the incorporation of the matzah. We simply took it, glue it to a pick, stick it in there, and there you've got it. You've got something very, very unique for Passover. I think that's pretty cool. Let me show you another one, my viewer, that incorporates matzah, but this one is going to be a little bit different. In this particular case, we also have a matzah design. Now notice we changed the color on this one. We're not using the traditional white and blue of the talit. Instead, on this particular arrangement, we happen to have pink offset with the iris. So we've got some beautiful pink roses. We've got some blue iris worked in here as well, and matzah all around through the bottom of the design. No mistaking what this is. This is definitely a Passover design. My viewer, you may wonder, how did we achieve this effect? Very, very simply. We put a container inside a container. In other words, the media that holds our flowers, where it's wet, is not touching at all our matzah, and in that way we don't have any issues or any problems with the matzah getting soggy or gross looking. It looks really great here simply because it is separately outside of another container that contains our florals. Isn't that beautiful? Something like this would work very, very well, I think, on either a dining room table or possibly a coffee table. I think that this is a really, really neat approach for somebody who's progressive in their thinking and is looking for essentially something that's non-traditional, but something that definitely says flowers for the home for Passover. Now, my viewer, we've got a couple of other ideas that I think you're going to find interesting. And these ideas are a little bit larger. Let me remove this from here so that we can get these additional designs in here. And I think you're going to find this really, really neat. Here is an arrangement a little bit bigger. Now this design is obviously something that might go very, very nicely in an entry area, possibly on a mantle. This design also definitely says Passover, and it does it on different levels. First of all, as consistent with some of the things we've been showing you, we've got some matzah worked into the design. But there are a couple of other elements on this arrangement that I think work very, very well that say Passover. The container, for one. We have deliberately picked in this particular case a container that feels like it came out of North Africa or ancient Egypt. It even has a weathered kind of an effect. It has kind of a sandy kind of feel to it as well as texture. It's perfect when we're thinking in terms of Passover and the Passover story. We also have included in this design some of our bamboo. And the bamboo is crisscrossing and going in all different kinds of directions in the center of the arrangement. What is the significance of that? Well, the ancient Hebrews were put to work on all kinds of building projects, and to us, the crisscrossing of the girders of bamboo symbolize the feeling of working on building projects, and therefore we felt that that symbolically would tie in with the holiday. And of course, as I mentioned before, the use of our matzah. So you can see, my viewer, you don't have to be small. You can come up with larger expressions on this. And flower-wise, some very, very neat things. We've got some roses worked in here, a couple of iris symbolizing the spring. We've got stalk here, 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 coming around towards the back, and a few of our carnations worked in here and there, some of our palms, our daisy palms, our athos palms. It is a lovely arrangement, and it definitely says Passover. We've got one more design we want to show you, my viewer, one that I think you're going to find really, really neat. Also a larger design, and something that I think you'll find works very, very well for Passover. In this particular case, this one again is a little bit on the larger size, and it's a very, very neat one. In this particular case, notice the container, notice the base. The base is a container to which we've glued matzah. Yes, it's our matzah ball. I like matzah ball soup. I don't know about you. If you've ever tasted it, it's really, really neat. And so we thought that for Passover, it would be kind of neat to make an arrangement in a matzah ball. Now this design is fairly tall. You can see, my viewer, coming up, we have some of our bamboo coming up a little bit higher. But the major thing that defines this as a Passover design definitely is the matzah that we've taken, broken down into small pieces, and glued on to our base. We've got our floral design media, our foam in here, and we've got all kinds of interesting things in here. You'll notice that we have some of our branches shooting out over on this side, a section shooting over dramatically over here, in contrast to, again, the use of our bamboo or river cane that's placed up here that symbolizes, again, the toil of the ancient Hebrews on building projects and so forth. Flower-wise, it's a modest design. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 of our roses placed in here, a few of our carnations, and then again some of our daisy palms worked here and there. The yellow works so well in terms of working with the matzah, and then a few pieces of our blue statice worked into the design. This design is large, it's showy, it definitely says Passover, and it does it in, I think, a very, very cool way. Well, my viewer, we've covered a lot of ground very, very quickly. Our staff here at Rittner's has been working very, very hard to come up with these designs. We certainly enjoyed presenting this to you. When designing for Passover, you can come up with so many different options. You can go with beautiful classical designs that are appropriate for the spring, for the time of the year, that will decorate the home and make it look lovely for people coming in. You can play with the concept of color, as in the design using just white and blue, but you can do it in very contemporary ways, stylistically changing your style to come up with something interesting, as well as doing the classical kinds of approaches. And then there's this stuff, matzah. This stuff is remarkable, and although normally around Passover we think of it as something to eat, I would suggest, my viewer, that you take a second look at this product. You can break it, you can glue it, you can cut it, you can do all kinds of things with it to come up with some very, very neat floral design expressions. So pull out that matzah, get out some charoset, eat it, enjoy it, and design with it as well. On behalf of all of us here at Rittner's Floral School, it was a pleasure to welcome you into our school. I'm Dr. Steve Rittner. We thank you for coming in and visiting with us today. Have a very, very happy Passover.